these NPTEL lecture courses. So this morning, I think we have uploaded the last week's, that's week 8's lecture material, and also the assignment. This week is very intensive because this is a week we have started with the historic areas and other, but this is the week where we will talk about adaptive reuse, infill, some of the rules and regulations, presentation, interpretation. So, I mean, a lot of things are there. I don't know how much you have been able to go through, but you can post your questions and so that I can answer this. And also in addition, if there are some general things I could like to tell you, I will say that. So far, I can see one question, which is Chandra Shekhar. His question is renovation of old buildings are given importance in India? Do the government allocate funds for this? Yes. Um, First of all the nationally protected monuments, that is, which are with Archaeological Survey of India, they are all under their protection. There are more than 3,000, I think 3,600, a little more than that, all over India. And they are of different types, different scale, and these are taken care of by Archaeological Survey of India. In addition to that, there are funds. One, of course, Indian National Trust of Art and Cultural Heritage, they give some grants for that. There is a World Monument Fund, they are also there. And what is most encouraging is that recently, I mean, it's quite last few years, the government has understood that it is not possible to take care of all the, okay, before that I said that apart from the nationally protected monuments, there are the state protected monuments. Each state has their own listed heritage, and they get the grant and they take care of that both technically and financially, not only for renovation, but also for the regular maintenance. So it's a huge work which goes on the national and nationally protected and state protected. In addition, as I say, INTAC has, and there are the different funds, state gives some fund. In West Bengal, there the West Bengal Heritage Commission, which gives the grants. And recently, as I say, the central government has, I mean, gone for the hand holding with the different organization and giving a fund for innovation, protection, repair, and other thing. It's under CSR, that is corporate social responsibility. So it's included that the heritage and conservation. So if any corporate house takes care of that, they will give the necessary financial benefits which come under corporate social responsibility. And just this week, I got a news from the Kashmir. Kashmir recently has really found out a very good uh, heritage economics, some mechanism that where the corporate house, if they protect, they will get a lot of benefits financially for the things. I will try to take that and upload that as a reading material. So you can see that the heritage economics is taken care of. So in addition to your question, I've said that it's a huge work and it goes on, and ASI, and in addition to that, there are certain other funds or certain other grants. World heritage sites are there. Not all world heritages are under ASI. Some are, but not all. Yeah, and like say Ahmedabad, World Heritage City, there are also certain grants. So each state, each city tries to give a grant. I can talk about West Bengal, like there are the different, apart from West Bengal heritage grants, there are different bodies which try to sponsor and give grants. So the renovation is funded, but we must except that our heritage is so diverse and so many, the quantum, that it's not possible only for the government fund. It's also the local initiative is very much required, not only in terms of finance, but in terms of technology, in terms of awareness and other things. So I think I have talked about that. And so I hope, Chandrasekhar, this answers your question. Um, and Shruti Kulkarni, you're a student of fourth year architecture and conducting a research. Could you suggest me a case study as a good example of digital documentation and restoration in any capacity in India? Also, the right source for the information. Digital documentation, I think, I don't know whether have you only asked me a question I answered. Digital documentation, yeah, as I also mentioned in my question, in my answer, is the when Human's tomb was done, there was that digital documentation was done. In addition to that, I think in the same sort of Aga Khan Trust, which is also taken a lot of initiative. So they are doing the Qutub Shahi tombs in Hyderabad. They are also doing that. In addition, I think Kanpur IIT, there is a different center which is also trying to do uh, digital documentation, immersive technology, digital documentation, and I think Gandhinagar IIT is also taking care of that. But when you talk about digital documentation, there are again very special fields in that, and I think it's all not only documentation, is a tasting also. So but if you just talk about digital documentation, there are different scale, and sometimes it's also tries to talk about now, the drone is also getting very useful to survey an area. So drone technology is also used. I don't know whether, I don't remember whether I mentioned, in Ankar Bhat, drone was used in the forest area, and they could map, because of there is a technology where they could identify the water bodies in that. So there are a lot of this type of documentation goes on. So as you asked me, what I am aware of the Humayun's tomb and the Qutub Shahi, and you want a good example, example which has been done in digital documentation. I think even some of the state archaeology or the ASI may be doing that, which I'm not aware of. So you can uh, go to the local intact chapter where you come from, and also the state archaeology department. You can also get in touch with the Kanpur IIT, and also the Gandhinagar IIT, whether they are doing any digital documentation of that. This is the one, but I'm sure there's more work is going on in that way, and it can be of different scale, different technology, and different accurateness. So yes, any other question? Shruti, I hope I have been able to answer you. Pallavi Pathak, I wanted to know about some good examples of adaptive reuse of historic structure with respect to management of the work. This is for my academic research. Please give me some reference. Um, there is a lot of adaptive reuse. One I mentioned this week, you will see, which is again West Bengal, which is Shirampur, which has been done an adaptive reuse. There's so many. The Nimrana group of hotels, they do a lot of adaptive reuse work. I suggest, depending on which area you come from, you write to uh, Intact Architectural Heritage Division, and also search for the nets, because there's so many are being done now in the adaptive reuse work. Mumbai also has done some work. I myself have seen some old warehouses being converted into shopping mall. So there is a lot. In Calcutta, I know quite a lot of old buildings there in converted into restaurants or a high-end what is that? High-end shopping area and other things, Fab India and other things. So I know some examples there. It depends on which area you come from and which city or which area you'd like to concentrate. So I suggest you try to go to the local intact chapter or local e-commerce members and or write to directly to intact Delhi Architectural Heritage Division. Or if you write separately to me which city you come from, I can also try to find out that adaptive use of Bombay. Bombay has a lot, I know, and Calcutta, I know because I come from Calcutta, but I'm sure there will be examples in Delhi and examples in other cities like Madras and other areas, Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad has turned quite in the old city of Ahmedabad, old historic structures into heritage, stay, homestay, and other things. So, if you do, there were some special issues on adaptive reuse, two or three issues of architecture and design issues. They're old issues, but if you can also search, there are many cases there. I also have in my collection, there are old ones, but Architecture and Design, the magazine, if you write to them, they at least two issues, special issues, they published on only on adaptive reuse. Darshan Kagdiya, uh, if we apply one structure for World Heritage structure, but unfortunately it's not selected, then what happens to the building is given back to the owner or etc. The World Heritage is nothing to do with the ownership. Okay. I will just give you an example that there are a lot of heritage areas, structures, and other things which were nominated for World Heritage Site, and there may be a possibility they are not nominated, not inscribed that year. So they will remain in the tentative list. So one example, I think, which is relevant for your case, that almost 10 years back, that the entire Shantiniketan Vishwabharati complex, the heritage core, it was inscribed and the application was done for the World Heritage. For some reason, technical or otherwise, it was not inscribed that year and it remains in the tentative list. That does not mean the ownership has changed. It's nothing to do with the ownership. World Heritage doesn't mean anything to do. They don't acquire the property. There is an inscription. It remains with whoever is the owner. So if ASI is the owner, it remains with ASI. In case of Shantiniketan Vishwabharati, even it would have been inscribed, it will remain with Vishwabharati, because there are a lot with the, there's maybe some cases where it's a living heritage. So it's just nothing to do with the ownership. But the owners, yes, the owners and responsibility of keeping it to that standard of World Heritage, for that owners remains with the state party. In India, who is the state party? The state party is the Government of India, Ministry of Culture, and within that, the Archaeological Survey of India. So any heritage property which is inscribed in India, it will not change the ownership, but it has to be, it can be a living area, it can be a monument, it can be other. So whoever was taking care of that, they will take care. And it will be never one party. There can be, I think I have mentioned Champani Prabhakar, there can be multifarious. In Champani Prabhakar is the forest department, state departments. It's a huge area. It's a state department, forest department, ASI, many other bodies who were included, and they will all become the they will retain their ownership, but the management of that is very important. So as I say again, the World Heritage inscription is nothing to do with the ownership. Nobody takes the ownership. UNESCO does not take the ownership of that. And it may be with ASI, may not be with ASI. It can be a state listed, it may be a private ownership. But yes, the status change and its management becomes a very crucial issue. I hope I have answered that. Varuna, what will be the pattern for the exam? From where can we download our admit card for the exam? Admit card for the exam, all the instruction will be there when you have applied. And the admit card comes naturally. But if you have not been able to find out that, uh, then we can forward your question. If you write us a mail, we can forward your question to the NPL team. But as far as I know, there will be a clear instruction of the admit card. This is number one, that from where you can download the admit card if you have registered for the exam. If there isn't any problem, if you cannot really find out that, just write a mail. We'll forward the mail to the NPTEL group who are administrating the exam. Question: what will be the pattern of the exam? What I suggest is that go through your lectures and do your assignment well. Even if you miss to submit your assignments, do that. See what are the answers there. So that will give you a good idea. That all, not all, but I mean, if you, and also this week especially, we have uploaded some reading material. Earlier also we have uploaded the reading material, and sometimes along with the lecture we have given some reference. Go through the reference. So that will be more or less enough if you've done the assignments, or if you do the assignments and see that the things, and go through your lectures. If you have understood that, even after next week, you can always ask us if there isn't any question. I think that should be a good idea, that for your questions. Savi Soul, sometimes heritage conservation comes out as a limitation for development in that area. Is it so people and government are reluctant towards conservation? Um, I think I started with that premise only, that conservation is seen as generally an anti-development. It is still there because the moment the conservation comes, we can't do anything with that. It is stops the development and other, but that needs to change. That conservation doesn't mean, never means freezing any development. Conservation means if something of a value, then we continue to respect that and use that. And especially this week, when we'll talk about adaptive reuse and we'll talk about the infill, you will see that depending on the value, depending on the significance, it has to have some use for the contemporary and the future also. But keeping in mind is value. Okay, so that's a very wrong it's a misconception that it is anti-development. Rather, uh, it's a layers of history. When we are in a society or in an area or other thing, it's a layers of history. We have inherited that, and we are seeing how best we can keep it. And other, we are not never saying it's no, nothing can happen to that thing, but what will happen, how it will happen, that is. So rather, the integrating conservation with development, or a development which is conservation oriented, it's something what we must all think about, and there is the mismatch. And when the last week when you have talked about integrated conservation and other, that is the area what we have talked about. And this week we'll be talking about in infill. For example, if this is in a heritage area and there are some old buildings, a facade or whatever, but there can be a plot where the building couldn't be, was not of much value, or it couldn't survive, it couldn't be sort of revived or restored, then a new building can come up there. But the difference is that how the new building come up, that you will see in the infill design, that that matters. That, and it doesn't have to copy the old building. It will be same new material, new vocabulary, but respecting the values of that area. physically, and also more and more we are talking about the people, their livelihood. That's something which is of a special character of that area that should be written. So it's never anti-development. Rather, I should say, it's not a drastic development. It is a harmonious development, a development which is contextual. That context is what heritage area gives us, or the heritage gives us that context. That's why we get no pluralism. There's so many. A city can have one area which is of a particular age, another area which is of a particular age, and that gives the richness and value and the interesting aspects of that city. Now, if you lose that and make the entire city look same one and same type of building, the city won't, or the area, even the area, it will be very monotonous. It will be very boring. So it is something like that. So it's never anti-development. It is never. We are never talking about freezing the development in a conservation area. Yes, but depending on some, like we can't Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal, we won't convert Taj Mahal into a hotel. Okay. But we will see Taj Mahal, people will come, they will see, they will understand its value. So there are different degrees, and that's why the grading is required. Rather, if we keep the spatial character of an area, spatial character of a building, it adds a value in a long run to that area, to that city, to that place. Sri Esa Shukla creation is in Chatar Manjil from Lucknow, comes under adaptive reuse. Shukla creation. That's Chatar Manjil from Lucknow. Yes, it is adaptive reuse because the original use has changed, and it is being put to some use. But when you put to some use, it should also try to understand the fabric, the qualities of the space. I think so far this is what the questions are. Any other question, Vanita? I think I have answered whatever the
No,
questions I have seen. I'm finding here.
no questions अभी तो.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
There are a particular question which is coming from what the civil engineer graduates they can do after doing graduation. I mentioned that. One is that, in Archaeological Survey of India, there are a lot of civil engineers. So there is a Deccan College in Pune, which takes the civil engineers. They train the civil engineers, and one civil engineer can directly probably apply to ASI. And Deccan College, there is a Deccan College is very well known, but every state has an archaeological department and others. So civil engineers can go that. In addition, I had mentioned of certain institutes, and I will, and within India, outside India. So I will try to find out the link of that and I will post that. But definitely, historians, civil engineers, people who are working on the archiving the things, and architects, town planners, geologist. Recently, a very good study has been done, which is 7-8 years long, where they are talked about Varanasi, and they have really painstakingly done, and they have found out the water, how the deep water extraction is affecting the interaction of the river water and other, and how it is creating pollution and other. So uh, and they have gone into the history and archaeology of the site, layers of history and others. So there are geologists, they play a very, very important role because one thing is that many of the layers can be under the ground. Okay. And then when you are interfering with the site, so geologists also play a very, very important role. So it's a very multidisciplinary team. And as for the civil engineers, they're very, very important part because structure plays a very important role. I will find out, try to get the link, and I will post that, whoever was inquiring about that. Otherwise, as such, as I say, that do your assignment well. And this week, especially, we are talking about a lot of top issues and topics. Go through that, though we have uh, really put it in a very limited manner. And the reading material also, go through the reading material. And if you have any question after going through this week's thing, write to us. We will try to give response to that. We'll also try to upload a video, a site visit, which we had done. That will also give you some idea. And again, I must mention that this course is a very, it deals with the basic of conservation, architectural, as well as a little bit of the town planning and area conservation. Each of this lecture can be detailed out more, and there is so much of scope for working. And also, every year, more and more developments are happening, more and more horizons are opening. Like climatology plays a very important role, that how climate resilience, disaster resilience are very important. So if you are really interested, you can see the e-commerce site, both international. You can go to the intact sites, and there's so many scientific works. I have uploaded, I think, one or two scientific works. So you can see there is a vast area depending on your interest. And we have just give you a basic understanding, an introduction to this subject, so that you can, based on your interest, you can develop that. But what is more important is that is understanding, respecting, and getting the why we try to conserve, understanding the management part of that. I haven't much talked about the impact assessment, which is also very important, and how, like you say, the development, if in an old area a metro rail goes, and there are, it is possible, but then the mitigation measures in the when a disaster happens, that what happens, how to take care of that. A lot of work is being done in Nepal after the earthquake, and how in an earthquake prone zone, how to make the heritage earthquake, because earlier probably it wasn't done. So it is necessary to make them um, ready or prepared to face the earthquake. And there is a lot of traditional knowledge also there. So is another area of work is going on to understand the traditional knowledge system. And most important are the people, the community, their culture, what is the intangible heritage we call, their culture, lifestyle, and other. They become an integral part of that tangible thing. So how to take care of that? So that's why people are becoming more and more important. Awareness, management, people, their lifestyle, intangible heritage, culture. The broad area is the culture, and of course climate resilience. And the pandemic has also taught us that so many things can happen, how to face that. The role of museums, the role of structures, how they can, uh, they had to adapt to that, or they can become useful in the time of pandemic. A lot of work is done even in the last year. People are trying to find answer all over, and in India also. E-commerce is a body. One can become, even students can become a member of e-commerce India. And also in tech, also local bodies, they work with the school, young people, and others. So if you're any one of you are really interested, you can start working with these bodies, be involved with those bodies, and then start working in your area, which is very important. And in that process you will learn more. I think if there is no more question, Vanita, do you think anything else what we have to uh, take care of? And
No.
if any one of you would like to sort of send us that, okay, this is the area where you need a little more material, you can write to us. We'll try to find for you that what is there. You can search on your own, or you can write to us that you need a little more reading material in that way, just for reference. We can try to help you in that way, not for exam, but I mean for your interest. If you don't find anything, be very specific what you are looking for, and we will try to address that. Okay, so any other thing, Vanita, what you can? There were some. We are sorry. There were some mistakes which happened. The assignment, which is due to miscommunication and other on our part. So we have corrected that. We have answered that also, and we are really sorry for this. And but as we say that you do the assignments well, go through the lectures, see what is being talked about, go through the reading material, have a basic understanding of the reference material, take your time. And again, if you have any question, and write to us, even if you don't have a question, that what is your feedback? What are the things you would like to know more, or you didn't like? Also, tell us that. That will help us in understanding your perception about the course. So that is also useful. Give us your feedback. The students, or even the people who are working, and whether it has satisfied, or we have more to want to know more, that's okay. A new message has come. Swati Burrell, when we are applying for a heritage site to become World Heritage Site and it fulfills more than one requirement, do we need to choose which requirement is meant? I'm confused about choosing the requirements for the site. First of all, I don't understand what you mean by requirement. For World Heritage Sites, it has to fulfill the criteria,
Criteria.
not requirement. Okay, so requirement is the criteria. It must fulfill the requirement. Out of 10, as is 6 are cultural and 4 are natural. But even one can fulfill just one criteria and can fulfill the World Heritage Site. If it has more criteria, if you write to those criteria, okay. So what you're confused about, criteria are not choosing the criteria. What is very important for World Heritage Site is to analyze that and find out that which criteria it fits into. Okay, number one, it can be one, it can be more than one. Okay, no, that is not enough. After the criteria is selected, then there is a process of comparison, that because in that criteria it is of outstanding, so there is a comparison happens, that suppose it is select Sydney Opera House, it is for creative genius. Okay, that criteria. Now, one has to also say that what are the other few examples which are all over the world, that which satisfy that criteria and of outstanding universal value. So that comparative things comes out, that because you're selecting outstanding universal value. So a part of the World Heritage would we call a nomination dossier. That preparation of that helps in the based on that comparison. Now, if you want to know more, when I was doing the World Heritage Site, I have given the reference of some of the books that or the reports which are freely available, downloadable in PDF format from the UNESCO World Heritage Center, the management, and also how to prepare a nomination dossier for World Heritage Site. That is a huge task and it takes years. So you go to that and see. So again, to answer your question, I'm saying it is the criteria, what criteria it fulfills. To understand more, just go to the UNESCO World Heritage Site Center, click on any, or I mean, it's a interactive map, so click on any dot where you say and then read. So first of all, there will be a brief description, there will be a statement of significance, and there will say what criteria it fulfills. There will be an explanation of why it is in that criteria. Then there will be a statement for integrity, and uh, what is the other thing? Uh, Management, integrity, those will be written there. Okay. So, and there will be a supporting maps, and these maps will be very important. So that is the way you can understand that how a World Heritage Site is selected, and go to that no, preparation for the World Heritage nomination dossier. You please go through that, and then that will explain. They have taken example to explain that why. So I don't see why you are so confused about that. But please go through that. Okay. Integrity and authenticity. So they will be clearly explained what is the integrity and what is the authenticity of that part, what are the criteria, what is the statement of significance, and then the comparison and supporting thing. Savi Soul, actually I came across an article related to government not allowing Lutyens Delhi under World Heritage Site to give way to Vista project to fully utilize the potential. Okay, that's a long debate. And It's not government not allowing. The government is going ahead, the central government is going ahead with changing the central vista, which is under a tentative list of World Heritage Site. Okay, the government is going ahead with that. Government is, if a nutshell, I'm telling you that there are the North Block and South Block. There are the Parliament House, and there is the wide road, which is the Central Vista, and there is an access all over the world. It's an unique example of an urban design along with its landscape and other. So government is going ahead with changing the entire area, keeping the buildings and demolishing some of the buildings. And how? Because that's what we call the Parliament building. There they're making an additional building, and there also Prime Minister's house, Vice President house is coming, and where that parade goes, 26th January parades happens, that area we see now a green area, all new buildings are being planned there. Now, we are not as a conservation specialist making any judgment of that. What people are protesting against is that to do that, there is a process of, uh, because it is a tran- tentative list of World Heritage, not one building, but the entire area, the landscape, the road, the Parliament House, and other. So there is a process that it has to go through. That if we do that, then what will be the impact of that? Is it really necessary to do that? So it hasn't gone through that process, the management process or the impact assessment process in the proper way. it is done in a very arbitrary manner. And also, we feel, some of us feel, and a lot of debate is going on, that the Parliament building, though it is old, it could have been upgraded, modernized, made into with all the requirements, and could have fulfilled a lot of activities rather than keeping it as a museum. North Block and South Block, which are a lot of floor area, which again could have accommodated a lot of activities if they are upgraded. Rather than doing that, the government has decided to convert that into museum, which is really not necessary so much of that, because they are demolishing the big gun bhavan, they are demolishing the lot of other buildings, and in process of doing that, that proper assessment has not been done, that how to properly utilize the existing structure. If that would not have been there, is not sufficient, then one could have thought about going. This is one. Another is that it is a unique urban design thing, and as of now, it is people's place. It's a janasthal. Converting the way it is being planned, as the plan is coming up, we see that entire thing place will be converted into a very, very secluded place. It will not remain a people's place. And that is something like, it is something like a park in a city. Okay, suddenly we say that we will convert a portion of the park into a, let's say, a club. It has happened in Calcutta club, where only few will have access who can pay the high membership of the club. So the park, which was available and accessible to all the people of that neighborhood, is now being exclusively used by one group. And this is definitely not can happen in a democratic society. And first of all, the process, that what was required, that process hasn't happened, because rather than seeing it in a holistic viewpoint, it is seeing as a part by part, and saying that, okay, we are done the environmental assessment, we are done. So the process what was required in a proper, transparent, democratic way, that process hasn't been done. So a lot of bodies, there are a lot of court cases, and a lot of bodies, they're protesting against that. But the government is going ahead, the central government is going ahead with this plan, which is changing the land use, making demolishing some of the buildings, uh, some of the buildings which could have been upgraded and could have saved a lot of resources, financial and other environmental impact. They are changing that. So it will have a huge money required, which and resource required, which probably could have been saved. And it is a democratic society, it's the people's thing. So, and it will change the entire area. And that's why the a lot of groups are protesting against. There are a lot of court cases, a lot of reports and other that go through the proper process. That process hasn't been done. So what you're writing is that is something is not really proper. The government is going ahead with what they think is the best, but not following the proper process. Okay. It is not realizing that what the potential it still has, could have been upgraded. So much of utilization of the unnecessary public fund is not required. And another thing is that, as I say, height, that the many of the buildings which are being proposed will be higher than in Gateway of India. Okay, so that original, the Delhi Master Plan, the Conservation Area Plan, the Urban Design Guidelines, everything says that there are certain restrictions. And this proposed plan by the government is changing all the restrictions which was being planned for that area. So this is where people are protesting against. There is a long-term impact, environmental impact and other impact, because it's a very, very unique one of the worldwide, it is very well known of that times urban heritage. A lot of thought had gone into that. And it is also done because it's a shared built heritage. It is also where the local people, the Indians, they also worked for that. and there are a lot of photographs are coming, the local contractors, local laborers, local material, a lot of thought have gone into that. So that shared heritage is totally getting ignored, and basically the process what is going through is not so democratic. That's what. Yes. There are a lot of materials available. So if you really, Savi, if you really want to read, you can search for that, and a lot of things are they are available on the internet. Okay,
Ma'am, this student Swati who mentioned criteria for the
I
World
understood that.
Heritage
I
Sites.
understand that your requirement
She
is
has,
criteria. I am having an issue in understanding which World Heritage sites come under or fulfills which criteria in some cases. That you have to refer to that particular site, because more and more you see examples, because even now I have to go to the site and I still learn that okay, why this is important. I have given you some examples, but the reports which I mentioned in the UNESCO things, which are freely downloadable, that's the best way of learning, because they give the examples from all over the world. So if you go through the examples, they are so clearly and so well explained. If you go through that examples, you yourself will understand that why a particular site is under this criteria, because they explain that. Because it is not that process itself, the preparing the nomination dossier is a very very critical work, and a lot of teamwork is required for that. So even that itself is a learning process. When you take a case in that books and you go and they explain, and that explanation is required, that why the what you see on the site is a very gist, but that gist is also very important, that how they have not a lot of text, but very summarized text, that why this is under that criteria. So more and more you go through those case studies, you will understand that why this is a criteria, because it's still a very learning process, that why this criteria, why not that criteria, what criteria is outstanding. There can be 6 criteria for a particular World Heritage site, which they are very good and explained in that site or manifested in that site. But out of that, maybe 3 criteria there, which are pertaining to the World Heritage or outstanding universal value. The other may not be of that extraordinary. Okay. So maybe there are criteria 1, 2, 4, and 6. Maybe only 2 and 4 are of outstanding universal value. Other 2 criteria, they are there, but they are not of outstanding universal value standard. Okay, so only those criteria will be explained and taken for inscription where these are of outstanding. It shows that outstanding quality. That's very important. So more and more you go through the examples, then only you will understand that the best way is to learn that and come out of your confusion. I mean, I still I enjoy going through that, because it's so much of learning process to see the inscription, because so many variety of world heritage sites all over India, and how to put them into a trained criteria, that itself. And it's also evolving, because World Heritage Convention is evolving, and it may evolve sometimes later on, because it's a very dynamic process. It's not that this will be fixed. After 2 3 years they find something, they will change it. Okay, so it's a dynamic process. So no more question. So again, I hope with this last week's lectures, uh, around 5 buildings are going to be demolished in Savisul. Around 5 buildings are going to be demolished in the process. Then why conservation architects not raising the waste? Savisul is the about the Latins to a lot of voices are being raised. A lot of PIL has been done. A lot of reports are there being prepared, lot of work is going on, lot of protests are being done by the conservation architects. Not only that, the lawyers, the environmentalist groups, all are protesting against that. And there is a lot of protest. And I mean, this is the only way to go ahead. The protest is being done, definitely done. Protest is done, and what is being said is to not giving a solution, but saying that go through the proper process and follow the process. That is the major demand of the people, and which is being not done. And I also we must mention that this is not only Latin Stele, but all over India it is happening, and the forests are being cut mm, for the sake of mining. A lot of structures are being demolished, changed, and there are protests. And so that's why more and more people, even not architects, the conservation is a very broad field. Lawyer plays a very important, legal, economics, common people, they play a very important role. So they have to understand and they have to protest, because these have very long lasting impact. It will change a lot, environment, climate, and other. Yes, the voices are being there. So if you care to look into the internet, you will see that how the things are coming out and how the cases are being fought. The one very sad case is, if you're an architect, you will know the Pragati Maradan structure, which is really, those who are architect who know that this is a very good example in post-independent India, which is a prefabricated structure, and which even modern architecture can be a heritage, isn't it? Because it is a very, and 20th century architecture is a very important role. And then there were a lot of court cases, but overnight, in one night, it was totally bulldozed, ignoring all the court orders and everything. The government acted in that way, and that's where the protest needs to be done. And the forest, a lot of other things are happening, so one has to be very careful and very, but one has, again I say, the emotional, rather than being emotional, rather than being aggressive, one has to talk in a sensible way, in a proper way, in a logical way. And that's why the need for such understanding that what happens, and then to see this the voice in a proper way rather than going in a very aggressive manner. So this is very much required, because as I say, that if we lose something, we have to think, because that's ever, if you lose something, that will have a long impact, and that is totally lost. And that is somewhere we need to protest in a proper manner, to work in a scientific way, logical way, and to raise the voice. Um, Probably you also know I Am Ahmedabad, which is a Louis Kahn's work, 20th century heritage. The I Am Ahmedabad decided to demolish some of the things. And again, if you search, you will see that it is due to the protest only from not only India, but from I think one of my questions I did mention the I Am Ahmedabad. It was from all over the world, people protested. So it is being stalled at the moment, and the um, investigation going on and other things that what can be done. But again, one has to look into that way, that conservation and development, one some mentioned that um, how, what we can do, why we can do, is it possible to save that with just repair and other thing, or it is a totally gone case. So a lot of issues need to be answered, but in a proper way. Then that's why these courses and the very basic thing which I talked about, probably to open your eyes towards those, and then one has to raise that and go through, read more and more how it is changing, another thing. So okay, all the best. give your feedback, and if you have any queries, please let us know. If you have any specific query, we have been trying to answer your questions and go through the material, go through the assignment. Even if you couldn't submit some assignment, go through the assignment again, see how you can, because the assignment we have tried to make you think about certain things, so that probably will help you. And even this week is also quite intensive. Go through the reading material. If you need a particular reference or reading material, please let us know, and we will try to address your queries. We hope that you have enjoyed the lecture and has given you some idea about this very, very interesting field, which is not only important for architects, it's important for all of us people, even if we are not architects or engineers and other. It's a very multidisciplinary field. Uh, so all the best and good night. I think we don't have any more questions, so we will say goodbye to all of you. Thank you.
Madam, wait for 30 seconds.
Okay.
So wait 30 seconds.
Okay. Savisul, in the Central Vista, 5 buildings are not going to, some buildings are going to be demolished, but the some buildings are being kept, preserved, but they are being preserved as museum. Uh, rather than being actively used, and that something is, and then for the same use some other new buildings are being uh, constructed. That's where I think is the, not, it is not an optimization of the resources, built resources. In a much one could see the option that how this building could have been upgraded and used actively rather than putting them into museum and making new parliament or new building. So first one that process should have been there, and the effect or the public place, because that's a public place for the uh, mainly the Delhi people and also from all over India. This very important place, so that is getting, will be lost. And a lot of trees will be cut, a lot of effect will be there climatologically also, and more important, wastage of resources. That's what we think. But we are not here to give a sort of judgment on that. What we all are saying is that do it properly, go through the process which is required under the existing rules and laws. Don't overrule it. That's the demand of all the people who are concerned. Go through it properly. Don't take a drastic measure. That will have a long lasting effect. Okay, so I will wait for 1-2 minutes and say good night to all of you. And thank you for attending the course.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vivanshu. Thank you.